Hello, and welcome to Keeping It Real with Shannon Live. Because you don't know how it's going to turn out.
My kids empowered me to get out.
What's going on with this remote learning and in the midst of COVID?
Working for different elected officials, learning and understanding how to put the community first.
Hello, and welcome to Keeping It Real with Shannon. Look, I've almost forgot the name of my own show. You see that? Hello, ladies. How you doing?
Hello.
How's everybody?
Good, hanging in there. Got a big day coming up soon, so I'm excited about that.
Oh, great. Well, we got a great show tonight, so I'm thankful for everybody that may be joining us watching. We're talking about relationships and what we have to do to make it work. Because we have all are in relationships or have been in relationships, and we know how hard it is to be in a relationship. And that's what we want to talk about tonight. So we have two excellent guests coming on to give us a little therapy about how to make our relationships work. So
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And our guest tonight is Miss Patricia D. Fraser. She's a licensed clinical social worker, practicing social work in New York City for over 35 years. She has a bachelor's arts degree in sociology from Brooklyn College and a master's degree in social work from Fordham University. And then we also have Miss Valerie Montoute. She has specialized in the field of behavioral science for over 20 years. She's a marriage and family therapist with a specialty in behavioral management, trauma, sex education, sex trauma, and holistic therapy. Welcome, my guests, to the show tonight.
well, hello there, ladies. How are you?
Hi,
Hi,
Shannon.
Kathy. Listen, I am so glad to have you on tonight because I definitely need some therapy here. You know, well, we all need therapy, so I think we all need a little therapy. But tonight's a topic is, is dear to me because I always feel bad when we are in relationships and it just can't seem to work. We're not committed, we're not communicating, and it just goes the other way. So what can you tell us that maybe you think the reason is why relationships are so hard to, keep going?
So good evening, ladies. Good evening, everyone. So relationships are part of who we are, right? We all have relationships, whether it's with our children, whether it's with our friends, our employers, our employees. So they're just basic things that go into making relationships successful. In my practice as a marital and relationship psychotherapist, I've seen a lot of couples, and there are just some common traits that create situations, and there are tools that we can use to sort of help us get out of it. But what we have to be committed to is to doing the work. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the statistics in the Black communities per se. We find that in our community, because of the stigma that is attached to getting any kind of counseling, that a lot of Black people, African Americans, Caribbeans, rely on each other, or they may go to an elder, or still today they will go to their religious leaders. And there are many Christian counselors that are trained, that are available to help navigate through these relationships. So I wanted to talk tonight about just some of the top 6 things that I found that come up in relationships and offer some suggestions on how to deal with them and how I've seen them dealt with successfully. One of the main ones is communication. And it's a big word and it covers a lot of areas. But communication and effectively communicating with your partner or your significant other is being able to express how you are feeling. You have to be able to speak to that person, connect to that person about how you feel mentally, emotionally, physically, what your needs are. what is uncomfortable for you. And very often, unfortunately, there's a breakdown of that, and so things can start to fall apart. Recently, for Valentine's Day, I saw on TV there were these couples that were married like 50 years plus, and they were asking them like, what's the secret? How are you able to stay committed and stay in this relationship? And one of the husbands said that they never go to bed angry, he and his wife. They make sure that before they go to bed, because they don't know if they're getting back up, that they at least begin to talk about what it is that has them in that state. So that's one of the pluses, being able to.
And another one, Pat, not cutting you off, but
No,
another one was really cute when he said
you saw
they
that
had
too.
been married 78 years, and they asked him how did it last. He said one thing that really made so much sense. He said, "There's no issue bigger than your partner that you are with. If that's your
Wow.
wife, husband, or whatever issue you are having, it's not
Mhm.
bigger than that person sitting next to you or whatever." So that's what I think happens a lot of times when we get involved in having issues with each other, and you got an issue with the person, they got an issue with you. They make the issue bigger than what the relationship is.
And you know,
And that's
in an effective relationship too, you should be really putting your partner first. So if you're putting your partner first and they're putting you first, then you're taken care of, and that develops trust and that develops intimacy. So those are also some of the tools, and that's very important what you just said, Lottie. Also, what I find, people coming into counseling, when I ask the question like, well, what were your expectations? Because they're telling me, oh, it's not working. And I asked one of them, like, well, what was your expectations? What did your relationship or marriage look like to you? And usually as that person is explaining what their relationship looked like to them, the other person is looking at them like they have two heads, because they're saying things like, oh, I thought I would come home and I would have a hot meal and my house would be clean. And the partner is saying, but yeah, I also work and I just get home maybe like a half an hour before you do, because I went to pick up the kids if there are children involved. So like, what is the period of time that I was supposed to have this house clean and have this hot meal prepared? And when people don't share their expectations, what happens is the other party starts to become very disappointed, and that can turn to being very disillusioned, and then you're having arguments, and then the relationship or the marriage begins to unravel. So talking about your expectations are very important. There's also finance, which is a big issue. I know there are couples that one partner doesn't even know how much the other partner makes, and so that speaks to the level of trust. You have to be able to say, well, these are our goals. We want to get a house, or we want to, in a few years, if you don't already have children, we want to have children. So how are we going to make these plans if I don't even know what you make, how much money? So that in itself is not building a strong foundation. So one of the tools that that's used is, I learned it from someone myself, and that is the percentage. So you don't have to give a dollar amount. So if one partner is making 60,000 and the other one is making 30,000, so you each give up 50% of what you make, and you put that in a joint account to take care of the bills and the food. And that allows the other person to have some money of their own. Because I've had, and it's mostly women, come in and talk about how devalued they feel because they have to go to their significant other and ask for money just to go to the store to buy some paper towels. And so you're put in this childlike position, and that leads to resentment. So that 50% of your income into the joint account, because now you have some autonomy, and there's nothing wrong with having autonomy in marriage or in a relationship. It's one thing.
so
Yeah, go ahead.
okay. Not cutting you off, but I want
Yes.
to ask the question to Miss Valerie. what it all this stuff that we were just saying about what causes these problems and stuff like that, do you feel that how important it is to sit down together before you get married and talk about all of this stuff about, what your expectations are, if you want that picket fence, you want that hot meal when you come home, or how you going to put your money together or whatever. Wouldn't you say all of this need to be discussed before you go down the aisle? Or even
I
if you
do.
don't go down the aisle, if you decide to live together or whatever,
Mhm.
so you would know what each other is looking for.
I do believe that it should be discussed, but I think sometimes not everybody has the ability to communicate properly. So during the dating process, see, a lot of people don't date, and dating does not necessarily mean sex, because a lot of times when people date or go into a dating, they have sex and then they're automatically in a relationship and the communication is left over. But when you date, you get the opportunity to go out with someone. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant, but you go out and you do things together. And then during that time, you first get to see that person in different situations. You get to see if they're mad, how they react when they're mad, happy, sad, lost, and various things, because then that also eliminates, even before you can even sit down and have a full discussion. Because if someone has an extremely bad temper, right, or the inability to compromise, or in the inability to come to middle ground, or an understanding, then when can they communicate to you what they're looking for, or even will listen to what you are looking for? And that's where a lot of times the foundation is even set. So I find that a lot of times there isn't a strong foundation even in that part, because you haven't seen as many sides as you can during that dating and courting process, which is needed.
Well, what in case there are expectations that, since we're talking about expectations, that are set from the beginning, that you're able to communicate and say, hey, I'm not Susie Homemaker here. I don't, come home and cook and clean every 7 days a week. And then, the person says, okay, I'm fine with that. And then as you go on in the relationship or you start to live together, now they don't agree with that anymore, but the expectations were set from the beginning.
That
Well,
that's unfortunate. You want to answer, Valerie?
um,
So that's unfortunate. I'm sorry. I just want to say that's unfortunate in terms of, because that's just dishonest. If you say to me, this is what our relationship or our marriage is going to look like, and then we are starting to take steps. Okay, we're gonna live together first as we, plan for our future, and then now you're kind of backstepping all the things that you promised. Then that's being dishonest, and that's going to affect trust, and that's going to work on the relationship. You
So,
know,
Pat, I want you to I'm sorry, we hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
okay.
It's Shannon. It's Shannon.
What's more dangerous? A man who isn't afraid of death, or one who's found everything to live for? I asked him if he was proud of me. He emphatically said yes, as he laid his pecan-colored head on my chest, and I went through my mind 1,000 times to figure out what that could possibly mean, and every single example ended in motivation for me. So you may not be afraid to die, but I'm more afraid to let them down. And I found something to live for, which is a dangerous motive forever fueled. See, your thoughts may be involuntary, but my actions are very calculated. I was a man with a plan, but now I'm a dad with a decree, and you can't take that from me. My sons ain't raised by no coward, and they won't be one either. If this be the measure of a man, the yardstick gonna need way more meters. I take it too far, so they never come up short, because I found everything to live for.
It's Shannon. It's Shannon. It's Shannon. It's Shannon. Keeping it real.
Hi, we're back and we're talking about relationships, how we make them work. Before we went to break, Pat, you was telling us about being dishonest about your
Well,
expectations.
yeah, because you're hoping that this is a person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. So if they're promising you something, and unless something drastically changes, why are you now showing me something else? Which goes back to what Valerie was talking about in terms of the dating process, because sometimes we see the red flags during the dating, but we want this person and we think maybe marriage is going to change this person. But a lot of times they're showing us who they are. And if this new behavior of them not wanting to do what they promise starts to come up, that's when the communication should come in, and you want to ask, well, we talked about this, this was the plan, so what has happened why you are no longer willing to do this? I think it's a
Well,
fair question. It's a straightforward question.
right, but when you use the term promise versus a communication, a conversation, I don't look at that really as a promise, because sometimes things change. You have children, you have job promotion, you have other obligations, and the dynamics may change. But maybe if they revisit these new terms and conditions, then maybe they have a better way of transitioning to what they need, where they need to be. Now, in terms of having this conversation before marriage, how much do you think they should reveal while they're dating? Because people don't want to talk about income and marriage. A lot of these things scare people off, and now these people either overinflate, and underinflate who they are just to impress on these type of circumstances. So, what do you think? What do you think is the threshold of when they should disclose this type of information?
Well, I think that before you discuss finances, it's important to really work on the compatibility. That's why I said in the dating process, you should really look for certain signs, because a lot of times we, as you said, we will see the red flags, but we'll ignore them or we'll make the excuse. Because even when you get past that and you decide, okay, we want to commit, the question is, what do you do when that person breaks that promise? When that person is not keeping to their word, what is your response? What is the consequence if there's a consequence? Because if there's no consequence, then that person's going to keep doing that. And then there's going to be these feelings that build up in you of being hoodwinked or bamboozled. And that's going to cause problems. And if you keep pressing forward, then you're still going to have more problems, because, finances are a very personal thing, because each person works hard to obtain that money or whatever it is, assets or whatever, whether they inherited it, whether they went to work for it, they're an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter. So that's why it's important before we even get to finances, because you sometimes you can, during the dating process, you can figure out if someone has money or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can tell by where they live, how they live, the way they take in, even if they don't have a lot of money, if they take care of their stuff. Like, even if you got, a little
Well, why?
tiny.
Because you think you go to McDonald's on every day, they don't have any money or something?
Well, what in case they do have money?
People with money don't wear their money, so
They
No,
don't wear
no,
their
I'm just saying sometimes. No, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes, like, even if they say, okay, well, let's just go to McDonald's and have a burger or something like that, and you go there, for a date, and because I don't see anything wrong with that, I mean, you got to mix it up now. You still got to take me someplace nice, in between.
Right.
But I don't mind going to somewhere like that. But my thing is that when you're together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though, like Vanessa was saying about the promises, and I know we have expectations and all that kind of stuff, but we all know things change once we get in a relationship. And to me, when you're in a relationship, you ain't gonna never know everything about that person. You're not, because they always come up with something new. You may come up with something new. I mean, why is it that whenever it does come up, why is it we just can't sit down and work it out, whatever it was? Even if we expected something, we said we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But then something happens and we change our mind, but that don't mean we don't still love each other. Why we just can't sit down at that point and say, okay, I know you expected me to have dinner when you came home, but I just didn't feel like cooking today. And I didn't cook. So you just need to call up and have some food brought in. What is the big thing? I don't, I think people just make too much out of stuff, and this is what caused us not to get along with each other.
Well,
Well,
some
it's
people
not,
are set in their ways, and then it makes it hard to communicate with that person when they have these expectations that they're just set on. I mean, that's the only thing that I can think that why it's
Well,
so
yes,
hard
you're
to.
right about that. Some people are set in their ways, but the same thing when we first started off talking, I think it was Pat, you was talking about when you talk to each other. Because I find, and trust me, I love my men to death, but I find it's very hard for them to sit down and just talk with you and let's talk it out. Like whatever the problem is, what are you feeling? Tell me what you are feeling. It doesn't matter where it hurts me or not. I can't work with you or do anything with you if I don't know how you feel. We
well,
have to
Well,
let
you
each
know,
other know how we both
I
feel.
hear what you're saying with that, and men are not big on on saying this is how I feel. You get a lot more from men if you ask them. So tell me what you think, and they're always they love to give you their impressions, their opinions, and you can pull from that what they're feeling. If they're telling you, well, I think that you're not taking care of things, the right way for somebody like me, so okay, so they're feeling like you're like undervaluing them or something. So, and sometimes you have to be in therapy or in counseling to get that translation, because sometimes it's a different language from what we may be more direct, or some men are more direct, but sometimes you have to kind of read between the lines, because they, especially for men in our community, they have to have the bravado, they have to hold it down. There's so much that's coming at them that it's like, okay, now don't tell me I'm doing family wrong too. So it takes a certain amount of sensitivity and
But Pat, isn't that where
understanding.
we come in? Isn't that where the partner comes in at? Just like you said, they holding it down. We expect them to do this, but this is how the other partner comes in. Say the woman, we come in because we got to help hold the man down. It's
Well,
about making each other
so
happy and not trying to put the other person down because they're not doing what you thought they were supposed to be doing. Let's figure out a way. I need to pump you up to get you to do what I need you to
right.
do, or
I
whatever.
mean,
Not say that's negative to you.
I agree with that, but it's also sometimes our delivery. It's not what you say, it's how you say it, right?
Exactly.
If someone is not meeting up to the standard or the expectation, if you sit up there, well, you ain't crap, and I didn't sign up for this. Of course, you are not going to get a positive response. You're going to get a positive response even if you went in the office and told your boss that. You're not going to get what you want. So the same kind of courtesy should apply when you're dealing with your partner. It's not what you say, it's how you say
How
it.
you feel.
And that's
Exactly.
is also very important when women are reaching into that feminine divine to learn how to express it in a more positive, nurturing, and encouraging manner.
And
That's
it's
what's
just like you
What
said,
about
Valerie, about how you saying it. Like, and then I think you also got to tell your partner what is it that you want. I used to date this guy, and I used to say to him, because I like flowers. I love flowers. And I said, well, how come you never bring me any flowers? He was like, oh, well, I didn't know you wanted flowers. I said, yes, whenever you come over, you need to bring me some flowers with you or whatever, because this is what I like. You know what I'm saying? So he started bringing me flowers. I think we need to let the person know what it
I
is we
agree.
want.
I
And
agree
because
wholeheartedly. They
Sometimes,
don't.
because
They
some
don't always
for
know.
real.
They don't
right,
always know. And
sometimes
there's a
people
book called
respond in their
Love.
feelings. So when they respond in their feelings with the expectation that the person know, or they assume that they should have known.
That's why you shouldn't
Right?
assume. You shouldn't
And
be assuming
exactly,
what that
that's why
person wants.
I'm telling
You
you
have
with the
to tell them what it
expectations.
is that
If
you
you're
like
sitting in a
and what
room
you
and
want.
one person is telling you one thing about what they were expecting from their partner, and the partner is looking at them like they have two heads, something didn't happen there. A conversation didn't happen there. Maybe they wanted to go along, to get along, or however that expression goes, because they wanted this person. So they figured,
Exactly.
okay, once I get in the marriage or the relationship, I can really show myself. But then you were being dishonest about what you were presenting to this other person. So it's really it's important to be honest, and it's better you take the risk before you get into the marriage or this committed relationship, then wait and get the disappointment later, because now you're looking at separation, you're looking at divorce. If there are children involved, now you're going to start affecting all the things that they say happen when you don't have one of the parents in the home. So that's really important. I just wanted to add one more thing. I know we're not going to get to cover everything, but it sort of ties in with what we're talking about, and that's when we're talking about boundaries, because it's important to have boundaries within a relationship. And you have to ask the question, how involved are your friends or in-laws or even exes in your relationship? Is it okay to continue communicating with an ex if you don't have children with this person? And that's something that happens a lot. And they're like, but we're just friends. But if one person has a problem, then you have a problem, because it's only two of you in the relationship, right? It should only be two of you there. So if I have a problem with you speaking to someone that you dated before and, oh, don't worry about it, they know that we're together, then the problem is you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. It's just a boundary within the relationship.
How do
And
you
Okay,
set boundaries?
we're gonna have to wrap this portion of the show. We're gonna come back for our after show, so please stick around for our after show. We're coming up right after this part here, but we do have to end this segment. So if you want to know what happened, stay on, and we'll be right back. But thank you for joining us for this part of the show. Remember to watch us every Saturday on Brick at 5:30, Manhattan Network at 2:30, and you can always catch us on Tuesday a night at 8 p.m. So please like us, subscribe to us, and thank you for joining us. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Pat, for joining us tonight. And as always, we'll see you next time.
Today's show is sponsored by Abu's Bakery. If you have a sweet tooth, stop by Abu's Bakery for some delicious cakes and pies.
Would you like beautiful pictures for your home or your office? Then stop by Faith Art Gallery. They have a large selection of pictures from around the world. It's Shannon. It's Shannon. It's Shannon. It's Shannon. It's Shannon. Keeping it real.
Hi, I hope you stuck around for our after show. Before we're coming back at this time to finish out the show, and we was talking about compromise with each other and how we treat each other and letting each other know what it is that we want from each other. And I just feel that that is just so important, and it'll save a whole lot of headache of arguing back and forth with each other if we both know what makes that person happy. Because sometimes I think we just need to watch each other to see, okay, what makes him happy? What makes him tick that I know not to bother him? Or do I want to use that when I want to start something with him? You know what I'm saying? So we pick our times for what it is that we need to do with our partner at that time. Because we all do it. We pick times that we push the button because we know we can push their button and stuff like that. But we need to concentrate on what makes each other happy. Like I said before, I like flowers, so that makes me happy when you bring me some flowers or something like that. Or you give me a scarf to wear around my neck because I love scarves and stuff. I'm just saying, and like you said, Valerie, how we talk to each other. I like for the man when he called me honey, sweetie, because I used to be the guy, he never called me my name, or he called me was honey. So I had to ask him one time, do you actually know my name? But I just love the idea that he called me honey all the time. You know what I'm saying? So those things means a lot in a relationship when they give you those little sweet names, and it just what I mean.
I mean, that makes you happy. It's all good when the person, what makes the person happy. I think where a communication breakdown too is, what about when the person doesn't have empathy for you? you try to communicate your feelings, your likes and your dislikes, especially your dislikes, so that you can try to get on one accord. And it's like no empathy, nothing.
So I want to say something
maybe
about
somebody
empathy.
maybe it's
I
a
just
one way.
with empathy.
It's a
I'm
one
just
way.
want just with empathy. They say when a person can't show empathy, it's because they're angry. So angry people don't tend to show empathy for other people. I just wanted to add that. So maybe we need to look at what this person might be angry about. I'm sorry, Dr. Vanessa. Go
Or
ahead.
do you mean like angry? Do you mean like angry, like something that have happened in their past or something?
It could be
Or you mean
something
just
from
an
the
angry
past.
bitter person?
It could be something current. But when you see that they just have this lack of empathy, they can't see your point of view, they can't show you some understanding, then something has them angry. We don't know what it is. It could be that whole expectations not being met thing, or maybe something, some boundary was crossed, or maybe something they thought they effectively communicated to you didn't come across, or they felt you weren't listening to them.
Could
But
we be talking
something
about
they
mental
passed
illness?
that they
Because
have
it'd be
been going
hard to
through.
Well,
communicate
both
with
of y'all
people.
can't talk. Which one?
Oh,
gonna talk?
sorry.
I'm saying maybe it could have been something in their past, like some kind of
Uh-huh.
traumatic event that they have
Yeah.
experienced that allows them not to be open and fully trustworthy of someone that they just come in new into their life.
and the minute they see a sign that looks like that or reminds them, it's like that's what it is.
At
You
the
know, and
door.
all those
Yeah, but
all
what
those feelings.
happens if you've been involved with a person like for a long time, 10, 15 years and stuff like that? Well, whatever trauma they've been having in the past, wouldn't you know now to have spoken about that and
No.
moved on from that because now you were a new person?
No.
Not necessarily.
No.
People may not have had the opportunity to sit back to deal with that trauma. So you don't want to bring somebody in your own life to just deal with trauma unless they specialize in that. But they have to be able to get that feels their self-worth and come bypass that trauma in order to deal and be openly fully to deal with other people.
Yeah, but how long you gonna stay in a relationship with somebody that's gonna act like that? I can see you acting like that at the beginning of something like that, and then you talk it out or whatever. But who gonna stay in a relationship with someone that can't just get it together, because you're not gonna have no relationship?
But you can't quantify that. How long it's going to take for some? It's like bereavement, right? People grieving. How long can you say somebody should be grieving? There's no time frame for that.
No, grieving is different. Grieving is different. Because you're gonna always grieve.
Traumatic event, but a traumatic
you will
event,
forever grieve.
No, but a traumatic event can also take time. You can't quantify that.
But then they would have to go through therapy, I would think so, to go.
And
But
they
if
have
they're
not done
not
that.
willing to do the work, to put in the work to help themselves, how can they effectively be in a
That's
relationship?
what you just said, Pat, when we came on. The work. You gotta do the work.
But
That's where the work
you have to do the work within yourself first to be in an effective relationship. If you can't work on yourself or whatever happened in the past, then how can you communicate to be there? And I find that my question is, if the person has mental health issues here, then how can you communicate with somebody that has these issues?
It's almost next to impossible. And usually I know myself as a therapist, I just have boundaries myself. And if there's an individual in the couple that's dealing with any kind of mental health disorder, any kind of alcohol or substance abuse, or has a violent tendency, then we have to discuss that openly, and they have to be referred for individual therapy. Because you don't want to, they come into your session, if they've been using, you're talking to the alcohol, you're talking to the drug, so you're not going to get anywhere. If they have a violent temper, you might be nervous yourself as a therapist sitting there, because here's this impulsive person that his wife or well, I'm not assuming it's the male. So you're in a situation and you have one person that's violent and impulsive. You're going to feel uncomfortable because you don't know if they're going to go off on you if you're not saying something that they agree with. So there are boundaries within even therapy. And if it is a mental health issue, you're not going to be any use to your partner if you don't address it.
But then we go back to the mental health as stigmas in certain communities. That's another issue.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a problem. And it's how much you value your relationship. You know, are you going to act like everything is fine and your relationship or your whole family situation is unraveling? So someone, you know, and sometimes one partner has to escape from that relationship. If the other person is willing to do the work, if the other person is willing to get help, then you have to preserve yourself.
So
But it's
Valerie,
important. Mhm.
One of our audience members said some people likes to be in their pain. I
Right.
can't remember exact words that she
Some people
used,
are comfortable in their
in their
pain.
own pain.
Mhm.
Like what does that mean? Like you don't see that you're having a problem, or you don't
Yeah,
they're
that's
not
the
feeling
thing.
their pain, or what?
No, some people, if they've gone through certain trauma, they could have compartmentalized it, they could minimize it, they may not even acknowledge it, or they just lock it away. And some people are comfortable in their pain, meaning that to go outside of that, to try to repair it or try to talk about it, acknowledge it, or treat the trauma is more painful than letting go of the pain, because that's something they know, right? Whatever it is, they know that, they understand that, they experience that. So they don't see anything wrong with that. What is more painful is the acknowledgement, to talk about it, to confront it, to also maybe have to confront that person who gave them, who was part of that trauma or part of that pain that they're experiencing, that they experience. So that's where the difficulty is, because, you know, even when we say, it's easy to say, okay, well, a person has to be willing to do the work, but if they don't see any need to do work, or they don't see anything wrong, and it's you. So if you have a mental illness, or you, and depending on which diagnosis or disorder you may have, you're never gonna look at yourself, right? So, and even if it was a trauma that caused that to manifest into something else, you're not gonna acknowledge that. So you're comfortable in this pain.
So we okay. So we're dealing with someone in that particular situation, right? I mean, we try to help them as much as we can, but if they want to continue to stay into that comfortable situation, I mean, should I feel bad if I have to move on?
No.
No, you shouldn't feel bad, because one, that's not for you to carry. Meaning that you two are to come together to be a unit. You two are coming together to talk and to express and to grow and to be one. And just like Patricia said, she said earlier, she said that it's important that the person, you know, acknowledge it, or the person states that, okay, this is my trauma, and you know, this is what I do. But if they don't acknowledge it, or if they're not saying that this is part of it, then guess what? They're not going to do it. So you have to walk away, because whatever their issue is will become your destruction, right?
Mhm.
So if they're violent, if before they become violent, they're going to become belittling. They're going to belittle you.
Mhm.
They're going to tear at your self-esteem, because in most certain, when it comes to violence, that's where it starts, because it starts off with verbal abuse before
Yeah,
we get physical,
always verbal abuse.
and then there's
And see
mental.
that's a lot happened, Valerie, with some. I'm just saying the women, because I know men are also get abused by women as well. We just don't
Mhm.
talk about it as much. But when a man is abusive like that, you're right. That's the way it starts. You know, they'll start calling you names, or they'll start saying negative stuff about you and stuff like that. And sometimes, you know, women will just let that slide rather than, you know, what they say, knocking it in the head right then and there. Because if you say something negative to me, you ain't gonna have but one time to be calling me names or saying something or whatever. Because I already
Right.
know you're not the person for me. Because
That, I
see,
mean,
But
I'm
that's,
used
but
the women compensate these behaviors. They'll find excuses when they're drinking, or they're upset, or they feel they take responsibility for making them mad. So they start compensating this behavior. You
well, they
know, so
Could it
compensate.
be?
Go ahead.
And I was going to say, could some of the behavior too be not verbal or abusive, but little things that they do to
Well,
to maybe disrespect or belittle you or whatever
It's like
without
emotional.
using verbal or abusive techniques.
It's
right.
emotional abuse. It's emotional abuse because sometimes just withholding yourself from another person is being abusive. If you're expected to be in a loving relationship or an intimate relationship and the other person is ignoring you or finding reasons not to spend time with you, that takes its toll because now you're starting to question yourself and your self-esteem starts to suffer from that. So yeah, emotional could be the first thing that they start with, or they're
Or
nitpicking everything you do.
or even, yeah, like she said, even everything that you do, meaning that it may start off like something that is so trivial. Oh, well, why do you have to be so pretty? Why are you so pretty? I wish you was just maybe a tad bit uglier. Or you know why do you know everybody? Why does everybody like you? Why does it? And sometimes, that's most of us will think nothing of that. Like, you just, oh, that's
Right.
what are you talking about? Oh, stop being silly, right? And then it'll grow into something else, because all those things are like a seed, right? Once you put it in dirt, you water it and fertilize it, then it becomes this. Then all of a sudden, one day it's a seed, and we got a big old plant. We're trying to figure out how we got here. So it doesn't always have to start out as blatant. It could be little minor things, and then it'll grow. Or it'll be one of these things is, you know, oh, you walking home, or you coming home from work? Why don't we just stay on FaceTime? I just want to FaceTime to make sure you got home, right? And mind you, that could be an hour call, like, and you're walking down the street.
Control. That's
You know,
control.
some
That's
people do
control.
that. Right.
Yeah, before we're gonna be running out of time sooner or later. But what I want you to do is just kind of tell us, maybe give the audience some advice too. Is a couple of things that we just really, really need to do to help make our relationship work. Nothing is never perfect. We
No.
don't know. When we get in relationships, we shouldn't even go into it thinking it's going to be perfect. We just go into it because we want it to work. But if it doesn't, it's not working, like, what are some things that we really need to go in to the relationship? We get in the relationship that we really need to do to
I think
try
one
to
of the
make it
things,
work and
one
not
of the
blaming
things
each other, because everybody want to blame the next person.
okay,
No, it's her fault. It's her fault. I don't do
well,
anything.
no, I hear
It's
what
not
you're
me.
saying. I'm trying to. So your ability to forgive, right? I mean, we're all humans. You just said it yourself. We're not perfect. So when you're coming into a relationship, you're learning how to live with another person, and so you both have to learn how to kind of navigate around each other, and you can just have some forgiveness in your relationship. I mean, we're not saying to the extreme like what we were talking about before, like, no, that's a boundary. No hands on me, no putting me down, whatever. But you can forgive some of the mistakes that your partner might make, and that has to reciprocate. Also, I find that couples who are of the same faith, somehow they have a higher probability of staying together, which basically just talks to having similar values. So maybe in that dating piece, you might try to look at, well, what do we have in common? What do we like? Where are we coming from? So that tends to work out. In treatment, in therapy, I always suggest a date night, especially if kids are involved. Have one night out of the week that you go, even if you just go to McDonald's, or go somewhere, and you get a chance to just feel like you did before the responsibility of marriage and
Or
possibly a
go to
family.
Popeye and have some apple pie and chicken wings.
There you go. And also asking couples sometimes when they come in for counseling, giving some homework, like go home and write down 3 things that attracted you to this person in the first place. Because sometimes day-to-day life, you just sort of try to get away, you move back from what that chemistry or what attracted you to each other. So you have to work at it. You have to try to rekindle. And we just have to bring mental health to the community. Miss Montoute and I are part of the Dream Foundation, and we've been doing programs in the schools in the Brownsville, East New York community with both the school community and the parents, and just teaching them ways to be with each other, how to discipline their kids, how to talk to each other, and just basic tools. So there's always hope. We really are stronger together, and it's worth working on. So that's what I would offer.
Well, thank you, ladies. We have to go now at this time, but thank you so much, for coming on, and and truthfully, I really do hope that we really learn how to communicate with each other better.
Yeah,
like you said, forgive each other, and really learn how to compromise. So this way, both people are happy, not just one person is happy, but both of us are happy, because that's what we're supposed to be. If we're going to go down the aisle, now we become one. I mean, if we're not going down the aisle, or well and good, we'll just continue to argue and fight with each other, whatever. But you still don't want to be in that kind of relationship either. You still want a relationship that's, lovable and everything. But definitely, I think we need to communicate with each other more. I think, like you said before, that we really need to learn how to talk to each other. And come up with some, sweetie names for each other. I just think that's so important in everything. And then try to do what it is to make each other happy. Because like I said, we don't know what's going to happen when we get in a relationship with each other. That person can be the perfect person when you meet them, and then you find out that what's that saying about the devil in disguise, or whoever the person was in disguise. You find out it's not even the person that you thought they were. But you have to, you know what I'm saying, work it out. Because I remember when I got married, I didn't know my husband was a gambler, because he never gambled when I was dating him, never. And then after I found out he gambled, then it was a problem. But then the uncle said to me, well, he's not bothering anybody. He's just playing cards. So why are you making such an issue out of it, right? So I had to think about it. Okay, yeah, I was making an issue out of it. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes we just work with what it is, and then you compromise and you understand the person. And because you got, each person has to be happy. They can't do everything you want them to do, and I can't do everything they want me to do, or whatever. I just think we need to bring the love back. Remember when we used to be really in love? We have to bring that back. That's what it is. So thank you again. And like I said, make sure you watch us on Saturdays at 5:30, 2:30 on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, and every Tuesday at 8:00 p.m. And look, we love you. Valentine's Day had passed, but we love you. So as always, we'll see you next time.